Hi. Alright, hello guys. Welcome back to my channel. If you're brand new here, my name is Nikki and this is my book nook, and today I wanted to do something a little bit different. I have been kind of feeling a certain type of way when it comes to rom-com books this last year. Romantic comedy books, something about them just hasn't quite been hitting for me. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's that, Book Talk a couple of years ago just really blew up. Romance books, reading in general, everyone's loving them. They're all over the Barnes and Noble aisles, and I just think that maybe there's been like a lot more books coming out, like a resurgence of this sort of genre, a lot of new authors trying to like dip their toes in it, and it's just starting to feel like a lot of these books are kind of like running together for me, molding together, kind of all following like the same sort of pattern, just feeling super predictable. They're not just like making me feel what they used to make me feel. Like I want to kick my feet, I want to giggle, I want to fall in love. I want those warm and fuzzies, and I just haven't been getting them. And it's really interesting because the last few weeks I've seen a lot of different book creators expressing the same sort of feeling. Instagram, TikTok, just anybody that is a book reader, a book reviewer, I've been seeing some posts kind of like relaying these same sort of feelings. So I thought it would be interesting today if I just do a video where I simply talk about my top 5 favorite rom-coms of all time. The ones that have just stood out and stood the test of time for me. The ones that I just still think about to this day, whether I read them a few weeks ago, a few years ago, they are still just my favorites and have not been beat. So if you have been wanting to read a rom-com, have kind of given up on the genre, or maybe you're brand new to reading, you want to check out some rom-com books, I feel like these 5 books are the perfect place to start. So yeah, I'm gonna get into it and I'm gonna make it interesting because I'm actually gonna do a little bit of a countdown. I'm gonna start with my number 5 and work all the way up to my number 1. If you've been around for a while on my channel, you're probably gonna know every single one of these books, but I will say there is a new one in here, a new one that I read just in the last couple of months. So regardless, I think it's gonna be fun. Let's just get into it. So first up, my number 5 has to be People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This book started something for me, and I didn't know it at the time when I was reading it. I obviously loved it while I was reading it, but I just didn't know that it was going to become my favorite sort of trope, one of my favorite types of books ever. And that is a book where you have these past and present timelines. You have this couple that present day, you can tell there's a lot of tension between them. There's something that happens, some sort of history, but we don't know what it is as the reader. But throughout the story, you're flashing back to the past and you're slowly sort of like putting those pieces together to try to figure out what exactly happened to make these two people go their separate ways. It's this good old like friends to strangers to lovers kind of trope. I feel like that trope didn't even really necessarily exist, or I didn't at least know of it when I read this book. And when I read this book, it just blew my mind, and I think that is why, because if anyone could do that trope, it is Emily Henry. This story follows this guy named Alex and this girl named Poppy that met their first week of college. They very quickly hit it off, even though the two of them are very polar opposite. They're from the same very small sort of town, but Poppy just wants to like spread her wings, travel the world. That's all she wants to do, where Alex is very kind of comfortable being, just in his own little box, in his own little bubble. But the two of them really bond over the things they do have in common, and they end up starting this tradition where they basically take a vacation together every single summer. And it becomes just a thing that they do. They grow closer and closer over time, but now, present day, we know that the two of them have not spoken in years. Poppy now works as basically a travel blogger. She gets to travel for her job. She does, social media, she writes articles, and Alex is working as a teacher back in their hometown. But now, after several years of them not speaking, and we don't know why, the two of them are reuniting because one of Alex's family members is getting married and they are both attending the wedding. So they're both basically going to be going on another sort of vacation together. And while we are seeing this present day timeline sort of play out, see them reunite, see all the tension between them, we are flashing back to the past, to all these various vacations they took together over the years. And when you see it all sort of just like come together, this book seriously just gave me those heart palpitations that you just don't really get nowadays anymore. Like, I don't want to say that as an overarching thing. Obviously, there's still great books out there, but this book really had me like kicking my feet. Whenever the two of them, present day, were like having their issues, but you could see there were still some like very deep feelings there for one another, like, Alex just made me smile. He made me blush. I just love this book so much, and still I think about it all the time. So number 4 for me has to be It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. This book for a hot minute was like the rom-com book, the book of book talk. I would say even it might have launched like the whole rom-com thing on book talk. This book was huge. Everyone was talking about it, and it's for a good reason. This book is actually inspired by the show Schitt's Creek, if you've ever seen that. It's one of my favorite shows ever, so I think that's why I love this book so much. But even if you haven't seen the show, it doesn't matter because the story truly does stand on its own. It follows this girl named Piper. Piper is essentially an heiress. She lives the life of a socialite. She really doesn't have any responsibilities. She has a very rich stepfather and mother, so she really just gets to party all the time, go to events. She doesn't really have a path in life, and basically at the start of the story, Piper makes a really poor decision. She's sort of acting out because this relationship that she had ended, her longest relationship ever, which is only a couple of months because she's never really had a true relationship. She ends up acting out, throwing this massive party on this rooftop. The cops come, it's a whole big thing, and her stepfather is furious with her. He basically says that she needs a reality check. She needs to learn some responsibilities, so he decides that he's going to send her to live in this small town in Washington that her father actually grew up in. He was a fisherman there, and he actually owns this bar there. Her father has now passed away, but he is going to send her there, give her a small budget to start out, but she pretty much needs to like figure things out, fix up this bar, do whatever she's gonna do, find her own money, but like she needs this time to like get her life in check essentially. So she ends up traveling to this small town with her sister, and that is where she meets Brendan, who is a grumpy fisherman. It is very much a grumpy sunshine sort of situation. Piper truly is like Alexis from Schitt's Creek, like through and through. That's her type of character. But this book was really cute. It was really funny, like that laugh out loud type of funny, but there was such a good message at the core of this book, like Piper's character development throughout, and like Brendan's even as well. Like their relationship, they are so polar opposite. You would never think that the two of them would want to be together, but just like watching the two of them grow, watch them like fall for each other and like try to deny it. Brendan's got kind of like some dark past type of issues, and watching them like overcome each of their own personal battles. It was such a good time, and seriously, like when this book ended, I just like was smiling so hard. I wanted to fall in love. It just felt like one of those feel good like TV shows like Schitt's Creek. It was just so good, and the spice in this book, do not let this cute little cover fool you, because oh my god, this book gets pretty wild, but it's a good time. Definitely, if you haven't read this one yet, check it out. So now we are moving into my top 3, and my number 3 easily has to be The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. This book took the world by storm, and honestly, it makes a lot of sense because this book at the time was so different from anything else that was out, at least like in the mainstream. A rom-com about a woman in STEM was just such an interesting concept, such an interesting setting, and Ali Hazelwood, being a scientist herself, being the one writing it, just made it like so much better. I just adore this book. The concept of it is always a little bit difficult to explain, but it just made for such a good story. Basically, it follows this girl named Olive. She is a student, a PhD student at Stanford. She's working up to being a full-blown like researcher, scholar, whatever it may be, and she is in a bit of a predicament. Basically, she just got out of this relationship with this guy that she just wasn't really feeling him. They just didn't vibe, but her best friend and him actually vibed a lot better than she and him ever did. And her best friend is clearly very interested in him, and Olive wants her to pursue him, but her best friend feels guilty, is like, no, that's your ex, I couldn't do it. So to kind of prove to her best friend that she has moved on, she's like, I'm going out tonight, I'm going on a date, when in reality, she's going to the lab to work. And while she's in the lab, her best friend ends up walking in, and so completely in a panic, Olive ends up grabbing the first guy that she sees and kissing him. And when she pulls away, she realizes that she just kissed Dr. Adam Carlson, the very grumpy researcher, professor that pretty much everyone in their department is terrified of because he is a total hard ass. He's a genius, but he is very grumpy, very difficult to work with, and now she has just kissed him. So now she's in a bit of a pickle because her best friend obviously saw them kiss. She should not have kissed him. He's kind of her superior, kind of her coworker. But it kind of turns out that the situation works out for the two of them because Olive wants to prove to her friend that she has moved on, and Dr. Carlson is in a position where he's trying to get more money for research, but they think that they are at risk of losing him. Stanford thinks that he's going to go to another college any minute now, so they don't really want to invest more money into him. So in his mind, he's like, okay, if I can prove that I'm in like a stable, long-term, committed relationship with someone that also works at Stanford, maybe they'll think that, you know, I'll stay here and they'll give me the money to research. So this is a fake dating story. The two of them start fake dating, and truly to this day, I think this might be the best fake dating story out there. Like, it just hits every single mark. It checks every single box. All of the things about fake dating that are just so good, that just like make you get butterflies, this book does. The whole like trying to pretend in front of other people, and then that part where you're like crossing the line of, are we doing this for show or are we doing this because we actually like each other? Adam Carlson was just the perfect grump. He's so like broody, mysterious, quiet, but every word that he says matters. And oh my God, when things come to a head in this book, it had me kicking my feet. It was just so good. I still think about it. I'm still chasing the high that I got the first time I flew through this book in one setting. It was just so good, and I love it so much. All right, guys, my number 2 is actually a newer read, and honestly, I've been talking about this book nonstop lately, both on my channel, on TikTok, on Instagram, everywhere else, because that is how much I loved it. It is one of the few books that I have read in the last year or two that really feels like these rom-coms that were coming out a few years ago. It is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I don't even know where to begin with this story because I just loved everything about it. In so many ways, it felt like it was written for me. If you are a fan of movies, rom-com movies specifically, like, you will love this book because it is a rom-com for people that love rom-coms. It is about this girl named Liz. She is a rom-com fanatic growing up. Her and her mom really bonded over rom-com movies. They would watch them all the time, and because of that, it's really been ingrained in her to like want to be that main character, want to have that rom-com kind of moment, that meet cute, that sweep me off my feet kind of feeling. And so now she's in high school, and she's always grown up in this small town, this small neighborhood next door to this boy named Wes. And her and Wes growing up never got along. They've always bickered. They've always like fought. They've always kind of been at each other's throats. But now in high school, their latest sort of conflict is that they always fight over the same parking spot that is on their street by their two houses. Like, it is an ongoing battle between them. They really can't stand each other, but Liz is now in a position where she might actually need Wes's help. Essentially, there was this boy that lived on the street with them growing up that Liz was absolutely in love with, obsessed with, but he ended up moving away. But now he has moved back. They're seniors in high school and he has moved back, and she is intent on having her rom-com moment with this boy. She wants him to bring her to prom. She wants all the warm and fuzzies. She wants the butterflies and rainbows, the fireworks, everything that she would ever expect from a rom-com movie she's picturing with this boy. But she's having some difficulty getting back into his life. But a person that isn't having difficulty is Wes, because Wes and him were really close growing up, and now they've picked up their friendship right where it left off. So Liz sort of gets this genius idea that she is going to use Wes to get closer to this guy. And she ends up propositioning Wes, saying, you know, if you help me get with him, I will let you have the parking spot that we've been fighting over. So it is a win-win situation for both of them, and this ends up turning into a fake dating story as well, but it's a little bit different because it's a fake dating story to like try to get another guy jealous, to get him interested in the girl. And if you've watched any rom-com ever, you know how those types of stories go. You know how those like, we're trying to get someone else jealous, we don't actually like each other, but like over time, the more time they're spending together, the more they're gonna end up liking each other. Wes was just like the perfect rom-com man. Like, I am still thinking about him. There is a particular line in this book that just like, I screamed and threw it across the room when it happened, because that's how much I loved it. It was just so cute. Like, this is one of those books where you read it and you feel like you're like in elementary school or junior high again, like you're having your first crush all over again, just like the butterflies in your tummy, like your heart is just pounding. Like, it was just so suspenseful. I didn't want to stop it, and it was just perfect. It was truly the perfect rom-com. Like, of all of these books we're talking about, this is the most rom-com through and through type book, and it's also a YA story. There's not any spice in this one compared to all the other ones that we're talking about. There is some level of spice. This one is completely clean. It is a high school story, so truly it is perfect for everyone, but it's still so, so good. I love this one so much, and it's definitely a new all-time favorite. And lastly, the one, my number one, my Roman Empire, my holy grail, the book that I never stop talking about, that has been my number one rom-com since the moment I read it, probably 3 years ago now, and it has never even come close to being dethroned. I love it so much. I got a freaking tattoo for it on a random afternoon because I can't stop thinking about it. I love it so much. It is The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. Guys, this is the book. This is the one. If you're gonna read any one of these books, this is the book. If any person in my life ever asks me for a book recommendation, this is always the first one I give them because it's perfect for everyone. Anyone that is interested in any type of book ever, I'm like, The Hating Game, here you go. I have given this book as a gift to so many people I can't even count because I just adore it. Like, every single minute of this book, every single page, it's just so good. The experience, you laugh, you giggle, you get angry, your heart races, like you feel every range of emotion in this book, but like in the best possible way. This is a workplace romance, which is another one of my favorite types of tropes because there's just something about the tenseness, the forced proximity of two people that like have to see each other 40 hours a week, that have to be in the same building. And this book has all of those elements because it actually follows Lucy and Josh, and they work at this book publishing company. Basically, they worked for two separate companies that ended up merging together. So now they are both the co-executive assistants to the co-CEOs. The company ended up keeping the two CEOs, so they literally work in the same office right across from each other every single day. They have to work with each other on everything, and they could not be more different. Lucy is just like complete sunshine, like her desk is cluttered, everything is like colorful, and Josh is like straight-laced, like, you know, comes from like a very prestigious school, like wants everything organized. He's very blunt, like they just could not be more different. The two of them have always argued, always bickered, never gotten along. They constantly are messing with each other. They constantly are getting HR called on them because they are just like forever fighting. But now things are really heating up because they truly are at battle with one another. There's a new promotion up at this company, and they are both basically the top two choices for it. So they are two very different people fighting for the same position, and over the course of this time, the two of them are kind of like having to work more closely together as they are fighting for this role. And let's just say many years of tension, many years of buildup kind of all come to a head and explode, and the two of them realize they might have a lot more common than they originally thought, and just watching it play out is so delicious. Like, I don't know another word to explain it. It's just so good. All of the little quirks to this book just like make me kick my feet. Joshua is one of those characters that, like, again, he's so grumpy. There's like not much to him. He's very like quiet on the surface, but like the things he says to Lucy, the little one-liners that he have, like, I have never blushed more reading a book in my life than I have reading this book. And I've read it like 4 times and still it hits every single time. I just love this book. There's so many little elements to it, so many like tropes that people love. Just trust me, just trust me. This book is so freaking good. It's honestly one that I feel like is a little polarizing. I've seen people that either adore it or they don't really adore it, but if you're one of the people that adores it, like me, it will be your favorite book ever because it's just that good. I truly don't think anything will ever dethrone it. Like, I can't imagine a world where that happens. Better Than the Movies was so good, but this one, it's always gonna be the one for me. I just love it so much. But yeah, guys, that is it. Those are my top 5 favorite rom-coms of all time. So far, obviously things can change. I might read 5 new rom-coms this year that just outdo all of these. You never know what could happen, but yeah, I just wanted to share these with you guys. I would love to hear your top 5 favorite rom-coms down below. If any of these are on your list, let me know. If you have any completely different ones that I absolutely have to read, ones that are similar to these that you think I would like, let me know. But yeah, guys, that is it for me today. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you very soon. Bye.